Yeah.
So the band breaks up. I guess the legal play now would have been to just call it something else and not call it the Tigers and start again, but that would have been
Well,
complicated.
not really, because you're signed not just as the Tigers, you're signed to MCA as people. So, we were actually, at the time, stuck in this contract as people. We couldn't, even splitting up, technically, you couldn't have gone and recorded with somebody, with somebody else, because you were exclusively signed to MCA. So there was no kind of escaping that. We were stuck with that. It was still always going to be a question of buying us out of MCA, but this guy said he thought he could. But the fact is, nothing happened. Nothing came of it. It was a terrible thing to sort of tell Brian and Rob, and probably I should be ashamed of myself for having anything to do with it. But but it seemed like there was no way out. So we kind of went a bit down that, but I could see pretty quickly that nothing was going to happen. This guy got more and more difficult to contact, and it was clearly it was all a load of rubbish, and nothing was going to happen at all. So nothing. The band never played without Brian and Rob, so it's not like the band carried on without them or anything. Nothing ever came of it. So I just decided I didn't want to carry on, and I had other things I wanted to do. I neglected my education at that point, so I wanted to go and study. And also, you kind of realize that everything you're doing, it's like your livelihood. It's how you make a living, and it's all dependent on other people all the time. And I wanted to do something that was just dependent on me, and that I wasn't going to find other people's decisions, getting in the way. So that's kind of how I ended up leaving it all, and really didn't really give it another thought for many years after that.
So let me ask you this: as a young man at the time, you must have been 24, 25? You couldn't have been that old, right?
Yeah, that's probably about that. Yeah.
Was it disappointing that you couldn't be sort of the rock star, or was it a relief and you look back on it now and go, you know what, I did damn well? Was there a sense of disappointment or a sense of relief at that time, like, okay, we're done, now let me go do this education, let me go be a lawyer, a solicitor, I guess you call it?
Yeah.
So disappointment or relief at that point?
Well, it's as it was happening, it was very upsetting. It was really awful. It was awful to just see, as you said. We were in our most successful period. The album it charted higher than any of the other albums. We'd been to Japan. Things were really going well, and to see that fall apart in very quickly. It really sort of happened quite only in a few months, really, after the end of the Cage tour. I think that there's a YouTube of, we did a UK TV show called The Tube, and I think that might well have been the last time we actually ever played together. And it was awful, and the whole thing about sort of with Brian and Rob, they were the people I started the band with and everything. It was just awful, So that was just horrible. But then I guess once I decided that I really needed to go and do something else, I didn't spend a lot of time sort of worrying about it or thinking about it. It just seemed like the right thing to do.
As you look back on it now, it probably is a great relief, because sort of the rock and roll lifestyle compared to what you're doing, with family and everything settled down, and you probably actually ended up having it better off in the long run.
Well, it would have been. It would have been great if it had all just sort of happened, and we'd been sort of Metallica or something, and all ended up sort of rich and famous, and lasting success and everything. That would have been great, and I would have enjoyed that. I'm sure. I mean, by the time we came to do the Cage, I was teetotal. I didn't drink at all by then. I had problems with that, and I, so I think I probably was. I think I would have probably at that point survived the rock and roll lifestyle, because I think I kind of had already got over that. But as it was, I mean, these things just. I definitely, looking back on it now, I mean, I think I was lucky that it happened the way it did, and life's been good, and I'm glad I did it. It was a fun thing to do, and it would have been great if more had come of it. But you see so many bands. I mean, so many bands never even get a record out. To have 4 albums on a major label. To have gone to Japan, toured Europe and the UK. Shame never to have gone to America, but but all the things that we did do, I sort of think of as really good things, and I think a lot of the music was stuff that we can be proud of, and
I agree.
I mean, I certainly over the years, I mean, it's amazing now to sort of think, that Rob's still doing it and that Jess is still doing it. Which is great. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I went to see Rob's version of the Tygers a couple of years ago, I think it was, and they were really good. And I've seen the YouTube clips of Jess, and I mean, it's a pretty authentic sort of Wildcat sound. I think it's all a good thing. Whether I could still do it, I don't know. I mean, I don't think there'll ever be any kind of reunion.
Well, we have done a lot of time here, so I thank you for that. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you a couple of questions here. Yeah. In '85, John and Brian come back with an album called The Wreckage, which was under the Tygers name. First of all, was that somewhat surprising? You broke up, MCA wouldn't let you out of your contract, yada yada yada. And then here they come with this new album. Were you shocked, surprised, annoyed, angry, happy for them? I mean, baffled?
Well, none of those things, I'd say. I mean, I was at university doing my degree, and I walked into the living room, well, the sort of place I was living, and some of the other people in the flat in the apartment had the TV on, and there's the Tygers of Pan Tang, John and Brian playing, and it was like, oh, really? But I certainly wasn't angry or anything. I was surprised, I guess, but no, I wasn't angry at all. I think with bands, I mean, if nobody's using the name, then people can pick it up and run with it, and if somebody drops the ball, somebody else can pick it up and run with it. I wouldn't have expected to be asked or anything. It's not like that, is it? I mean, it's a terrible shame if the brand, if you want to call it, that's probably a horrible word, but if that's going to waste, right? I think I'd rather there was a band going called the Tygers of Pan Tang. I mean, I'm amazed that all those years ago when I sort of thought of the name, because when I thought of the name, there wasn't even a band to call the Tygers of Pan Tang. To think that there's still a band called the Tygers of Pan Tang is pretty amazing. And so, yeah, I mean, I John and Brian were doing it. I didn't sort of really think much of it at all, really. But I suppose if I had thought about it, I would have thought it's probably a good thing. I haven't really heard those albums much. Certainly never sort of sat down and listened to them. But I certainly no objection to them having done it. No, not at all.
Yeah, and brand is not a bad word. It brand over band any day. That's the way I look at it. Which is why Kiss has been so successful. 1999, the Wacken Festival, or Wacken as I guess they call it, calls you up and says, calls Jess up or Rob up and say, come with the Tygers, get all the guys, get Brian, get Rocky, let's do this. And according to both Rob and Jess, you decline, which seems to be the case because the show went on and you weren't there. Why did you decline? Why would you not go back for a one-off and just say, okay, let's go shake our, tuchus for 45 minutes and excite the fans?
Because nobody asked me. I mean, that's obviously the first reason. I didn't even know anything about it.
Okay.
I don't know why nobody asked me, but they didn't. I don't think I would have done it anyway. I mean, my job's not the sort of thing where you can just sort of suddenly, go and concentrate on something else for a while. I had 2 days off last year. It's not. I haven't got the time to do the rehearsals, and you can't just get up. I mean, there was a point a few years ago where I think when the Tygers bass player left, and Rob rang me and asked me if I wanted to do it. But not necessarily to sort of join, but did I want to do the couple of gigs that I had lined up, and I couldn't do it. I mean, it's so long since I played that stuff that the idea of just sort of getting up there and playing it, you can't do that. You've got to rehearse and everything. You've got to learn it again. It's sort of, it's 35 years or something, since I played any of that. I've got the albums, but for many years I didn't have any of the albums even. So, it's not something that you can just suddenly do. It takes a bit of time. I mean, I wouldn't do it unless you could do it properly. I wasn't asked, and even if I had been asked, I don't think I would have done it.
And well, with the 40th anniversaries of Wildcat and Spellbound and all that coming up, hopefully you'll get together and do a one-off with the boys, because I think that would be fun for the fans. And then lastly, John Deverell, he's gone on to be a stage actor and does all kinds of wonderful things over in the UK. Were you surprised that he turned to stage acting, and how did you rate him in terms of being a singer?
I thought he was a great singer. I mean, I even more so when I came to sort of listen to it again after, as I say, I kind of just really didn't think about any of it at all, or listen to it or think about it at all for maybe 20 years or something. It was really only, I suppose, social media and things that started to sort of, and then I kind of had a sort of attacks of nostalgia, I suppose. But then listening to it again, I think especially there was a bootleg of the Reading gig, and I once I got back in touch with John, I messaged him to say, I was just really knocked out by how good he was. I didn't even remember. I thought he was good at the time, but I didn't remember him as that good. So yeah, he was a really, really good singer. And being an actor doesn't surprise me. He was a very dramatic sort of singer. He was a very dramatic sort of guy. So no, that doesn't surprise me at all. I think maybe that would have always been his preference had he had the choice between, singing in a band and acting. He probably would have always wanted to act. So no, that doesn't surprise me. And I thought he was an excellent singer.
Yeah, he really was.
We were very lucky to get him. I mean.
Yeah, he was over in Persian Risk, and then I guess came on over. Now the live album you've been referring to is the Nottingham, or it came out as Nottingham Rock City. I've got to say that is one of my favorite live albums out of all of them, because having done these interviews and all, I know that a lot of them have been touched up in the studio, but that one, there's an energy to it, and yeah, there are mistakes on it, absolutely, but they add to the charm of the whole presentation. And the version of Mirror on that album, it really just is what Mirror should be. It's sort of the perfect dirty love rock ballad, whatever you want to call it. It just works, and folks should definitely seek that out and pick it up. And
it's my favourite Tygers album, that one, actually. Because I mean, for me, a band is what it is live. It's not the studio albums, really. I think a band lives and breathes what it is like live, and that's the important thing. And but that is, what you say about Mirror is quite interesting, because listening to that Mirror on that album, I think, oh, that's